Hello and welcome. Today is day 9 of the month of Elul, the month when the King, the Creator, is in the field, meaning that God, divine consciousness, source, all there is reaching out to me and to you with a smiling face, as the Torah says, a smiling face, a loving face, a pleasant face, to help you to enter into a new relationship as we prepare for the coming year, for a quantum leap into another level of reality, into destiny. So in this month, we have a special power to change that relationship with our past, with our future, with ourselves, with our potential, and with our source. And that's what we want to be doing here. So today I'm going to be talking about a few things. First and foremost, I don't want to forget to mention that I'm feeling a very deep urge to try to change, to do my part to try to change the trajectory, the fear-based trajectory of what's happening in our world right now. And the most powerful way I can think to do that is by changing our relationship with God and each other, by invoking the power of prayer. So the Torah describes prayer as having the ability to take you actually above all of creation, above the laws of nature, above the past, above deserve and not deserve, even if you get to a high enough level, and bring down a new reality from the very source. Because we have to understand, we have to really internalize that the world is not a solid. It feels like a solid. That's why it's so upsetting when it feels like it's cracking and breaking, but it's not a solid. And I really want you to close your eyes for a second and just imagine, what if the world isn't a solid? What if the world is fluid? What if it's true, as Kabbalah explains, that the world is being brought into being by infinite divine consciousness, infinite divine intention, infinite divine love and desire? Now, and now, and now, and now, and now, constantly looping back to its source, just still getting over a sprain, looping back to its source and coming down into manifestation again through all of the spiritual worlds, then into this physical world, which is the target, which is the place where the game is ultimately played. That's why we're here. That's why our souls also keep going back to source and coming down again in order to live our purpose, to fulfill our purpose in creating a divine world. That's what this is about. Elul is a very, very special time because it takes you out of time. It gives you the potential, at least, to step out of time, to step out of that whole mental construct of past and future and fixing the past and being weighed down by the past and having to drag the past into the future. You don't have to do that. In Elul, you can connect directly to your source, directly to your soul's desire, to your inner heart, and to your creator with love, and enter into a new relationship. Part of that, when you want to renew a relationship with someone and it's kind of broken, or it's broken in some way, or at least it's not what you want it to be. So part of it is taking an inventory. It's natural, right? Like, what's wrong here? And what do I really want? Not just focusing on what's wrong, but what do I really desire? How do I really want it to be? And then in the context of how do I really want it to be, you can look at what you are doing and what circumstances are around you. What are you perpetuating, and what are you failing to manifest? In other words, where are you out of alignment in that desired new relationship? And that's really what Elul is about, except that it's not just, we have this word really in all cultures, but in Hebrew it's teshuvah, which means it's often translated as repentance, and there is that aspect of I've done this wrong, I've done that wrong, I've done that wrong, because really we have to face what is happening in order to change it. If you don't see what's happening, if you don't see there's dirt on your face, you don't have the option of washing it off, right? So being upfront and real about what's happening, that's part of it. But really, tshuva, this deep bedrock of relationship between us and God, is remembering who we truly are, why we are here, what that relationship is in potential, and leaning into that while looking at everything that has not been aligned until now. So tshuva really is a return and awakening. And there is a vast awakening happening now. So the more we can look at the future desired effects, experience of being in a love affair with Source, in a love affair with God, of co-creating a divine world with consciousness, of uniting with others in order to do that, of aligning ourselves with what we most deeply desire instead of being victims of what we don't want. The more we can do that, the more power we will activate from within the infinite potential of this month of Elul. So I want to say that. And on behalf of that, I have decided that I'm opening a prayer project. Really, it's going to be centered around Telegram, the Telegram app. If you're not on it, you can download it. It's, from what I understand from experts, nothing's totally secure, but compared to a lot of other platforms, it's pretty secure. They're fairly into privacy and maintaining rights. So anyway, if you're not on Telegram, you can easily download that app. And if you do that, you want to join, if you want to be part of this project, join the group. It's called Gate of Unity Empowered Prayer Matrix. Gate of Unity Empowered Prayer Matrix. If I remember, I'll put the link down below, but if not, then just give me a shout out and I'll be happy to send it to you, the join link. But first you have to be on Telegram. What we're going to do in that project, and I am going to schedule hopefully a Zoom call for anybody who wants to participate. This will be invitation only. In other words, you have to get on the Zoom. It's going to be private, but we can take as many people as want to come. So I'm going to be doing a matrix, which a special matrix prayer, and letting you know more about the Empowered Prayer Matrix and how you can be involved. I want to quote or reference somebody, a special person, a journalist. I think she lives in the UK. Her name is Lynn McTaggart. You might know her. I've interviewed her in the past once or twice. She's done a series of books and years of experiments that she calls the intention experiments. I think her latest book is called The Power of 8. She's just one of the inspirations for this. Obviously, prayer is sourced in Torah. Prayer is one of the 3 pillars on which the world stands, and prayer also involves changing our heart so that our heart can be open to our source. Our heart can be open to that love relationship. But she's actually done, she's not the only one, but she's documented it, and she's working with it continuously. She's done experiments with groups. She calls it groups of 8, but it doesn't have to be 8. It can be 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, whatever works for you, that meet, I think, weekly. Maybe they meet bi-weekly, maybe they meet monthly. I don't know how much that matters, but they get together and in a certain format. They focus on the wishes, the prayers of the hearts of one or more of the people in the group. The entire group focuses in a certain way, and many, many healings and miracles are reported. So I want to start with this and ramp up from there, because we are connecting to the matrix, the Geula matrix, the matrix of redemption, the matrix of the Torah, the blueprint for creation, the matrix of our destiny. And the more that is a field of cause and effect that actually exists in reality already, but to be revealed, we have to connect to it and bring it down. How do we do that? Through our prayer, through our aligning actions, through our consciousness, through what we use to feed our minds, and what we do with that information, that nutrition that we feed our minds. We want to feed our minds mystical Torah, redemptive actions, redemptive power. So part of the prayer project, the Empowered Prayer Matrix, is going to be to assist you in creating your own groups. And we will want you to be reporting your results, hopefully your miraculous results, on the Telegram. That helps to build the field. When it comes to a morphic field, and that's what we're talking about, so it is a field, it is a dimension of reality that has its own laws of cause and effect. And thus, the more people who connect to it and get those effects, in other words, the miracles and wonders, which I'll talk about soon, the more we report the miracles and wonders, the effects that we get from our focused prayers, the more that field builds, and the easier it will be for you and others to get to draw down, to manifest those same effects and more. So we're really going for changing the trajectory that the world seems to be moving in, and easing that which has to break down, easing that whole process, and ramping up in a beautiful and wondrous way the miracles that are meant to come in, the healing, the love, the togetherness. So one aspect, again, will be those small groups, and within those small groups, and probably also outside of the small groups in one larger group, we will be doing focused intention and prayer for different aspects of what's happening in the world. And again, we will be reporting the shifts that we see to build that field. So if you want to join this, want to be a part of it, please sign up look for the Telegram group. Actually, I think I'm not sure if it's even, I might have to give you the direct link, but reach out to me underneath whatever you're listening, wherever you're watching this video, or on my Facebook or private message, and I will gladly send you the link. Feel free to share it with your friends. And again, we'll have the introductory Zoom and matrix prayer to get ourselves launched this Thursday. Today is Tuesday, so that would be Thursday, the 11th of Elul, which also happens to be my youngest daughter's birthday and the anniversary of the Rebbe Rishab. Anyway, so that's about the prayer group. And I really, I have no control over how big it gets or how deep it gets. I know that many times just a group of 4 people praying for each other in a focused way weekly and daily. And I'll explain how it works technically on Thursday, and I'll be there to support. But even that has been reported to generate incredible miracles for people. How much more so when we unite, when there are 100 of us or 500 of us or 1,000 or 10,000. That depends on you, if you share with your friends, if you bring them in, and how seriously you're willing to take this. How big of a player are you willing to be? And one of the things that's being foisted on us is a sense of helplessness. Like, I'm a nobody, I'm a nothing, the world is so big, it's chaos, I don't know what to do. And what we want to do as part of this the work of the Gate of Unity, everything that I do is for this purpose, but I think what we want to do as a united group is to see our power and to activate our power, to see each other's power and to help activate that as well. And again, in doing so, to build this field, this empowered prayer matrix that will get stronger and stronger for everyone who connects as we go. I think it can happen quickly. Of course, it's depth, it's quantity times quality. So the more quality we have, the better. The more quantity we have, the better. And when you multiply those two things, if you have deep, focused, empowered prayer, miraculous prayer for 2 people, that's awesome. Even 1 person, awesome. 1 person's prayers can change so much. 10 people, that's exponential. 100 people, that's super exponential. 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, that's our job. Depends on how much we want to get out of this, how much we want to put into it. So moving on, these times are destined times. They're predicted by the Torah. When the Torah, as the Torah begins in Bereshis, it says that the world, that the world was formless and void, chaotic, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the water. And Rashi, the premier commentator of the Torah, says that the Spirit of God that was hovering over the waters refers to Ruach HaMashiach, the Spirit of the Redeemer, of the Messianic Redeemer. These are the times. That's the central soul of all of humanity. We all have a spark of that soul that we need to activate. And specifically in this state of chaos. That is, the state of chaos precedes a quantum leap into something completely new. Now, here's what I want to ask you there. I like to refer to these metaphors, but if you are if you're a chicken, a baby chick, and a little bundle of whatever, feathers and heartbeat in a little egg, and you're eating, you're feeding off of, getting nourished from whatever's inside that egg, the yolk, the white, the yolk, and you get bigger and bigger, and your source of nutrition starts to dry up. And then you're pressing against the egg from the inside and the egg starts to crack. Just imagine that. That could be very distressing. If you're identifying with the egg, it could be like death. It could be like the world is collapsing completely. If you're identifying with what that process of cracking is facilitating, total freedom into a new reality, or instead of being huddled and crushed inside this cozy egg, you are now able to run across the field and peck and play. Okay, I don't want to be a chicken, but still, it's a metaphor. Are you identifying with the shell or with the life inside? Same with the metaphor of the butterfly and the caterpillar. I looked it up again just a couple days ago, just because it's so powerful. But literally, you can look this up yourself. The caterpillar, when it eats, gets a lot of food, then it gets wraps itself up into a cocoon, is hanging from a tree. So instead of being this plodding little worm, gnawing on grass and leaves, all of a sudden it's constricted again. Constriction and pressure seems to be part of the paradigm here. It's constricted, it's held safe, but very still, very almost helpless inside of this cocoon. And yet, even in there, it starts to melt, and its entire form, not its essence, but its form, melts down into a gel or a soup, and you would think that would be the end of the caterpillar, except that inside the caterpillar DNA are certain cells that are called imaginal cells that direct the formation of a higher order of that caterpillar's being. In other words, butterfly. So the wings, the imaginal cells that carry the DNA or the messages that will allow that soup, that caterpillar melted soup, to turn into wings, that's already in the caterpillar DNA. Likewise, the antenna. Likewise, the beautiful colors. Likewise, everything about the butterfly is already in the caterpillar, but it's never going to come out as long as the caterpillar is stuck to its rigid form. So it has to melt down. Now, to the caterpillar, this is, I'm assuming, an unconscious process. I mean, I haven't been a caterpillar, at least that I remember, so I can only use my imagination to get a sense of what it might be like. But one of the huge differences between the caterpillar and even the chicken and us is that we are conscious beings. We have a divine soul. We're created in the image of God, and we have free choice. So we live in accordance with a narrative. Our bodies don't have to turn into gel. Our world doesn't actually have to break into a million pieces. We step out like wet and helpless till we dry off and learn how to walk and fly. It doesn't have to be like that on the physical level. We get to change the trajectory whenever we want, with our consciousness and with the actions, the aligned thought, speech, and action. These are the three garments of the soul. Thought, the thoughts that you entertain, the words that you use, whether to yourself or to others, and the actions that you take. Are those going to be aligned with resisting breakdown, or even worse, anger, judgment, lack of humanity, divisiveness, terror? Or are you going to be aligned in your thought, speech, and action with the emerging butterfly version of your human self? Because that's our destiny. As I said, in the very beginning of the Torah, the world was tohu vabohu. It was formless, void. It was chaotic. Tohu means chaos. It was chaotic. And yet, Ruach Hashem, the Spirit of God, of the Creator, Merachepes al Pnei Hamayim, was hovering over the face of the waters. The redemption was implicit, just like the imaginal cells are part of the caterpillar. Even when it can't even imagine what it would be like to be a butterfly, wouldn't even cross its little tiny caterpillar brain to even think about that, doesn't even see the butterfly because it's looking down, not up. Okay, even then, Ruach Elokim, the Spirit of God, was hovering over the face of the water. Even then, when the world was formless and void, when the world was chaotic, and now when it's chaotic again, embedded in that chaos, embedded in that meltdown of consciousness and of predictability, of business as usual, is embedded the imaginal cells that can bring us to a new world. And that's what prayer is about. That's what the Empowered Prayer Matrix is here to facilitate. When we unite, we're also taught that the temple, the first and second temples were incredible holy portals in the center of Jerusalem between heaven and earth that brought peace into the world. They didn't last very long, about a little more than 400 years for each. They were destroyed, the first by the Babylonians, second by the Romans, and now it's been an almost 2,000-year exile. We are in the process of spiritually rebuilding the third temple, which will be physically built soon, again on its spot, and will never be destroyed. That's what we are told. So in that process, we need to know where we're going. We need to be able to focus our energy on the building project, on what's coming out of that quantum soup, what's coming out of that meltdown. And that will be a portal of peace for the entire universe. So in order to do this, in order to facilitate this process, it's not just ordinary prayer. We have to understand what we're going for. Because when it comes to prayer, there's the kind of prayer that I like to describe as squinched eye, helpless crying. It's not that that's never, we've all been there. And a lot of us are there now. And, it's holy. Like it says that God never despises a broken heart. Sometimes, the ego needs to be kind of broken down like that shell, because we can't see our greater self when we're caught in the everyday. And when we're afraid of change, which goes with the territory of having an identity and ego, resist change with everything it's got. However, we have to know what's possible. And even if we can't believe in it, and you can't fully believe in something you haven't experienced, not with all of your being, not at an emotional level, but you can allow for it. So we have to allow in order to intend and pray in the most effective ways. What I wanted, we have to be able to allow for the miracles and wonders that the Torah promises. I remember where I was going with I took a detour with the idea of the temple, which we're taught. It's a very core teaching in Judaism that the second temple was destroyed, and which precipitated this almost 2,000-year Galus exile because of what's called sinat chinam, which is baseless hatred, where we just hated other people just because, not because someone came and stole my tractor, but because, they're more successful than me, or I don't like the way they dress, or there's just something about them that makes me feel small, or so I hate them. So that kind of being in opposition to one another is so extremely destructive to our destiny, to this union, this matrix of oneness that is going to lead to heaven on earth, that it caused the exile, it caused the destruction of the temple, caused a vulnerability and this long exile. But on the other hand, the corollary of that is that we are taught that when we have unconditional love, ahavat chinam, unconditional love for each other, caring about each other, even though, you're not my necessarily best friend, and you're not my daughter, you're not my sister or brother, you're not my parents, yet, we don't really know each other, yet we can connect to each other in a way that we do care, that we're acting, our thought, our speech, and our actions. This is the prayer project, is one of unconditional caring within our groups and for the world as a whole. We activate the spiritual temple, which again is a portal between God's infinite love from way beyond the laws of nature, infinite healing into the world of heaven on earth. We activate that. And that's what we're going for here. So miracles and wonders. The Lubavitcher Rebbe speaks, specifically, I learned it many times in a discourse from 3rd of the month of Nisan from 1989, Mem Tes. Anyway, there the Rebbe talks specifically about the need for us to start to be miracle workers. And I'm going to keep it really short just to get to the point here. We all have a nature. Each one of us has a nature. And it's not just our impulses. It's made so much more complicated than that. Our impulses might be very primal or very pure, depending on we're talking about the body or the soul. So the body wants to kind of eat, drink, sleep, get massages, my truck, not yours. The hoard things, the soul wants only to give. It doesn't have a sense of self. And then in between those, mediating those things, you have the identity, the ego. The ego will enhance the self-centered nature of things because we intrinsically feel vulnerable and helpless in this world, like we don't have enough. Sarah Yehudit Schneider wrote an amazing book about this, which Eating as Tikkun. It's called Eating as Tikkun. It's amazing. If you want to order it from the Still Small Voice, that's her website, stillsmallvoice.org, I think. It's a very small book, life-changing. She talks about the hoarding instinct, how ever since the fall, the eating from the tree of knowledge that our cellular forebears, Adam and Eve, did, what generated a feeling of fall from, grace and security into fear, into helplessness, into guilt, into shame, into blame. And ever since then, we have been plagued with the virus of needing to hoard because we feel like we don't have enough. So we might hoard food, we might hoard, money, we might hoard praise and honor, we might hoard friends, we might hoard, ego. It's not only physical things, but it's like she calls it the grabbing instinct. Or we're not in the flow, where we see ourselves as solid. Like I started out by saying at the beginning of this slide, we see ourselves as solid and not enough. So we have to have more in order to be secure. That is a false security. And she talks about it just very briefly. I'm going to use them. Just going to paraphrase and use this for my conversation that I want to have here. When we connect to other people, hoarding, the grabbing instinct keeps us competitive with every human being on the planet, even the people we love. Do they have more than me or less? Are they prettier or are they uglier? Do they have better relationships or worse relationships? How am I doing? 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 You're a threat to me because you're doing better than me. So therefore, I have to push you away. I have to grab for myself. And this survival instinct keeps us, this hoarding, grabbing instinct keeps us separate from each other, separate from our potential, separate from being, it closes off the channels from source that will allow us to heal everything with ease, wonders and miracles. So bottom line, The Rebbe explains that when we go past our nature, meaning our sense of self, our habits, what we know ourselves to be able to be capable of, what we know ourselves not to be capable of, what we're used to doing, what we're used to never doing, what we think is impossible or possible, when we allow for a new reality. And part of this is seeing reality as fluid, as all divine and all coming in from the source through the filter of our own thought, speech, and action. That's what creates. That's what brings things into reality. Of course, it's deep. It's not just your conscious thoughts, it's your unconscious thoughts. That's why sometimes it takes some consistent work to really transmute things at their core. But it's worth it. So worth it. And that, again, is what this cracking and melting of this chaos is about. It's to allow for the release and the revealment of our deeper inner self, which is one with God, which is fluid, which is totally co-creative. So miracles and wonders, the more we can break through our own nature, we change the nature of our nature, the more wondrous things will outproject into our world. Many people are already exploring a different kind of prayer, a more intimate relationship with God, more like a loving, infinitely powerful, glorious companion. When we ask for help, we get it so much more than ever before. When we ask for something seemingly impossible to happen, often it happens. But it requires a change in the way that we think, what we believe, the thoughts we hold consciously and unconsciously, the words we use to describe our world and what's happening to ourselves and to others, inside and out, and then the aligned actions that we take, aligned with those things. Are they empowering? Are they co-creative or not? That is the question. So anyway, I think that's my alarm. I have a call. So when we can change the nature of our own nature, isn't that pretty? When we change the nature of our own nature, when we move beyond those boundaries that have kind of been wired into us, the world changes around us as well. And that's what we are here to facilitate. So I'm going to leave it at that. Your fairy dust will be to go check out the Gate of Unity Empowered Prayer Matrix. I will post the link, I guess, on my Facebook groups. And it's on Telegram. Download Telegram, meanwhile, if you don't have it. And I'll see you next time. Take care.